The prison moon Tartarus 7 looked like a giant metal ball floating in space. Gray towers and defense systems covered every surface. No plants grew there. No water flowed. It was a dead world made for holding the galaxy's most dangerous criminals. Veltar's ship landed on the main platform. The moment he stepped outside, he could feel the heavy atmosphere of the place. This was where bad beings came to disappear forever. Warden Thisik waited for them at the entrance. The tall, insect-like alien had 4 arms and black eyes that looked like marbles. When he talked, his voice made clicking sounds. "Welcome to Tartarus 7, Commander," Thisik said. "I must tell you, the human prisoners are very strange." "Strange how?" Veltar asked as they walked through security doors. "They do not want anything. No books to read. No games to play. No music to listen to. They eat their food without complaining. They exercise every day at the same time. They never fight with other prisoners." Zixana looked puzzled. "That sounds like good prisoners." "Good prisoners still want things," Thisik replied. "These humans want nothing. They act like they are waiting for something, but we do not know what." The warden led them through long hallways with thick metal walls. Red lights made everything look like blood. The halls were built to make prisoners feel small and hopeless. "We keep the humans in their own section," Thisik explained. "At first, we put them with other prisoners. That was a mistake." "What happened?" Kulthan asked. "The humans changed them. Other prisoners started acting like humans. No talking, no emotions, following the same daily routines. We had to separate everyone quickly." They stopped at a heavy door with warning signs. Through a small window, Veltar could see a human prisoner sitting on his bed. The man stared straight ahead without moving. "That is Captain Park Ji-hoon," Thisik said. "He was a special forces leader. He has been sitting exactly like that for 4 hours. "Maybe he is sleeping," Kulthan suggested. "He is awake. Watch this." Thisik pressed a button to talk to the prisoner. "Prisoner 3847, stand up." Captain Park Ji-hoon stood up immediately. His movements were smooth and precise. He looked toward the door but showed no curiosity about who was watching him. "Sit down," Thisik ordered. Park Ji-hoon sat back down in exactly the same position. His hands went to the same place on his knees. His back was perfectly straight. "He obeys orders right away," Thisik said. "But he never talks unless we ask him direct questions. Even then, he only gives basic answers." They walked to the next cell. Inside, a young human woman was doing push-ups with perfect timing. Up, down, up, down. Her breathing never changed speed. Private Kim So-young, Zixana recognized her from their earlier studies. "She exercises for exactly 2 hours every day," Thisik said. "Same time, same routine, same number of push-ups. If we interrupt her, she starts again from where she stopped when we leave." Veltar watched the young woman through the window. Her face showed complete focus but no effort or strain. She could have been sleeping or exercising. Her expression was the same. "Where is your mind, doctor?" Veltar asked. "Dr. Quinara is in her laboratory. She has been studying the humans since they arrived. The work has been hard for her." They found Dr. Quinara in a medical room deep inside the prison. The telepathic alien looked very tired. Her skin, which was usually bright blue, had turned pale. Her large head hung down like she was sick. "Doctor, how are your studies going?" Veltar asked. Dr. Quinara looked up with exhausted eyes. "I have never seen minds like these," she said. "When I try to read human thoughts, I hit walls made of ice. Not mental barriers. I can usually break through those. These are something completely different." "Tell us more," Zixana said, taking notes. "Most minds are warm and messy. Thoughts flow like water, full of feelings and memories and dreams. Human minds are cold and neat. Their thoughts move in straight lines like information in a computer." Dr. Quinara showed them brain pictures on her computer. "Look at these patterns. When other species think about home, their brains light up with emotion. When humans think about home, they make tactical plans. Distance to travel, defensive positions, supply routes. Maybe they just miss their families," Kulthan said. "That is what I thought too. So I showed them pictures from human communication networks, images of human children, families, celebrations. Other species would show happiness or sadness. The humans studied the pictures like military intelligence." Veltar felt cold fear run through his crystal body. "What else have you found?" "They dream about military formations. When they sleep, their brains plan battles, maintain weapons, practice combat. Even unconscious, they prepare for war." Dr. Quinara brought up security videos on her screen. "But this is the most frightening part. Watch carefully." The video showed human prisoners during their daily routine. They woke up at exactly the same time. They exercised in their cells with perfect timing. They ate their meals at the same speed. Notice they are in separate cells on different floors, Dr. Quinara said. They cannot see or hear each other, yet they move together like parts of one machine. Zixana studied the video closely. How is this possible? Are they talking to each other somehow? We checked all communication frequencies. No signals, no messages, no codes. Somehow they work together without any communication we can detect. The video continued showing the daily schedule. The humans moved through their routines with perfect timing. Exercise, meals, rest periods, everything happened at exactly the right moment. 2 days ago something happened, Dr. Quinara said quietly. She changed the video to show a different scene. In a common area, Park Ji-hun was sitting alone when another prisoner walked over. The alien prisoner was huge and covered with spikes and scars. That is Graxnor, Tasek said. He killed dozens of people on his home planet. Very dangerous. On the screen, Graxnor began threatening Park Ji-hun. The human captain sat perfectly still, showing no fear or anger. Graxnor got more angry, shouting and waving his sharp claws. Then Graxnor made a terrible mistake. He said he would hurt the small human female. Park Ji-hun moved so fast the cameras could barely see it clearly. 1 second he was sitting calmly. The next second, Graxnor was on the floor with his neck broken. Park Ji-hun had returned to his seat and was staring straight ahead again. The whole thing took less than 3 seconds. His face never changed. Veltar said in amazement, "Look at his vital signs," Dr. Quinara said, showing medical data. Heart rate stayed normal. Blood pressure did not change. Brain activity remained steady. He killed Graxnor with the same emotional state as sitting quietly. Colton looked impressed. That was perfect fighting technique. But no emotion, Zixana added. He killed to protect another human, but showed no anger at the threat or happiness afterward. The other human prisoners learned what happened through the security system. Dr. Quinara continued. They had no visible reaction, no fear, no gratitude, no concern. They just kept following their daily routines. Veltar studied the medical information more carefully. Doctor, in your professional opinion, are these humans still mentally healthy? Dr. Quinara was quiet for a long time. I do not know, she finally said. They are not crazy in any way, I understand. But they are not normal either. They think and act like perfect soldiers. But they are still human beings. The combination is terrifying. We need to understand how they became this way, Veltar said. Is it training? Technology? Something in their biology? I have been trying to find out, Dr. Quinara replied. But every test shows the same result. They are normal humans who think like military computers. Could they be pretending? Zixana asked. Maybe this is all an act. No, Dr. Quinara shook her head. You cannot fake brain patterns. These humans really think differently than any species I have studied. As they prepared to leave the medical area, warning alarms suddenly started blaring throughout the prison. Red lights flashed in all the corridors. What is happening? Veltar shouted over the noise. Thisik spoke into his communication device. Security problem in Block 7, prisoner escape attempt. Which prisoners? Thisik listened to his device, then looked at the group with fear in his black compound eyes. The humans. But before anyone could respond, the alarm stopped. Thisik spoke into his device again, then looked confused. False alarm, he said. The humans are back in their cells. Security found no evidence of an escape attempt. Then why did the alarm sound? Veltar asked. Motion sensors detected organized movement in the human section, but when guards arrived, all prisoners were in their cells as usual. Dr. Quinara looked worried. They were testing something, learning about our security systems. But how did they coordinate without communication? Zixana wondered. That, Veltar said grimly, is what we need to find out. Because if humans can work together like one mind in many bodies, they are more dangerous than we ever imagined. The group stood in the red-lit corridor, each thinking about what they had witnessed. Humans who acted like machines but were still human. Prisoners who could coordinate without talking. Soldiers who killed without emotion but still protected each other. What kind of species had they been fighting? And how could the galaxy defend itself against enemies who thought like computers but fought like they had nothing to lose? 3 days after the door incident, Warden Thisik announced a security drill. All guards would practice emergency procedures while prisoners stayed locked in their cells. This happened once every month to keep the prison staff ready for real emergencies. This gives us a perfect chance to watch the humans, Veltar told his team. We can see how they react to increased security activity. Professor Nalzeth looked worried as he studied security recordings from the past week. I have found something disturbing. The humans are making new patterns with their body movements. What kind of patterns? Dr. Quinara asked. Very small movements. Tiny changes in how they sit, how they breathe, even how they blink their eyes. Each human makes different small movements, but when I study them all together, they create a complex code system. Zixana looked at footage on her data screen. I do not see anything unusual. That is because you are watching individual humans, Professor Nalzeth explained. You must watch all of them at the same time, very carefully. He showed enhanced video of the human prisoners during their meal period. At first look, they all appeared normal, sitting quietly, eating their food mechanically, staring straight ahead. But when studied together, patterns became visible. One human would pause for exactly 2 seconds while eating. Another would shift his sitting position slightly. A third would blink 3 times quickly. They are talking to each other, Veltar realized, using their bodies like a communication system. For how long? Colton asked. Since they arrived, Professor Nalzeth replied. Maybe since the moment they were captured. Every movement, every breath, every small gesture has been part of an ongoing conversation between all human prisoners. The security drill began at 8 in the morning. Guards moved through the prison in organized groups, checking locks, testing equipment, practicing emergency responses. The human prisoners continued their normal daily routines, or so it seemed. Dr. Quinara was watching them from the observation deck when she noticed something. Their brain activity is changing, she called to the others. On her instruments, human brain patterns were shifting from their usual organized structure to something new. The electrical activity looked like preparation patterns she had seen in other species before fighting. They are getting ready for something, she warned. Veltar activated the communication system. All guards increased security around the human section immediately. But it was too late. At 8:47 in the morning, every human prisoner stood up at exactly the same moment. They moved to their cell doors with perfect coordination. From the observation deck, it looked like watching a single creature with many bodies. Lock down all cells, Thesek ordered over the prison intercom system. The electronic locks activated, but the humans were already moving. Somehow they had turned their metal food plates into tools. The cell doors opened one by one. How are they doing that? Zixana shouted. Security cameras showed the humans moving through the prison corridors like water flowing downhill. They avoided guard patrols without seeming to try. Every turn they made, every path they chose kept them away from security forces. It is like they know where every guard is located, Colthon observed. They do, Veltar realized. They have been memorizing guard movement patterns for weeks. Every security drill, every routine patrol, every shift change. They know this prison better than the guards do. Colonel Lim Tae-sung appeared as the clear leader of the group. He was older than the other prisoners, with gray streaks in his black hair and battle scars on his hands. He moved with the same empty expression but carried himself with obvious command authority. The colonel led the human prisoners through sections of the prison that should have been impossible to reach. Security doors opened somehow. Guard posts were mysteriously empty when the humans passed through. Emergency alarm systems failed to work. They are not just escaping, Dr. Quinara said, studying the movement patterns. They are systematically taking control of our security systems. In the main security office, warning alarms sounded constantly. Guard units reported confusion and equipment failures throughout the prison. The humans moved like they had been planning this escape for months. Block 7 has been compromised, a guard reported over the radio. Block 9 has lost all electrical power, another called out. Communication. Systems are down in sections 4 through 8. Thysik looked terrified. This is impossible. No one has ever escaped from Tartarus 7. Humans are not like anyone else, Veltar replied grimly. Security footage showed the human prisoners reaching the main corridor that led to the spaceship landing areas. But instead of heading directly for the ships, they divided into smaller groups. What are they doing now? Zixana asked. Watch, Professor Nalzeth pointed to different video screens. One group, led by Sergeant Choi Young-ho, moved toward the guards' sleeping quarters. Another group followed Private Kim So-young to the Communication Control Center. Colonel Lim Tae-sung took the largest group toward the main security office. They are not just escaping. Veltar realized. They are taking complete control of the entire prison. The human prisoners moved through the facility with mechanical precision. When they met guards who did not fight back, they simply walked past them. When guards tried to resist, the humans defeated them with minimal violence. But it was the efficiency that was most terrifying. No wasted motion, no unnecessary force, no emotion during combat. They treated fighting like any other job that needed to be completed. In the security office, Thyssek watched his guards being systematically defeated. They fight like they know exactly what we will do before we do it. Because they do, Kolthon said with grudging admiration. Look at their fighting techniques. They have studied every species in this prison. They know our strengths and weaknesses better than we know theirs. On screen 7, Specialist Yoon Hai-Wan was taking apart the communication system. Despite her injuries from capture, she moved with perfect efficiency. Her fingers worked over control panels, shutting down systems with expert knowledge. How does she know our equipment so well? A technician asked. She has been watching, Veltar replied. Every maintenance visit, every repair, every system update. She memorized everything. Screen 3 showed Colonel Lim Tae-sung approaching the main weapon storage area. The security doors were protected with the strongest encryption codes available. The colonel studied the door for exactly 30 seconds, then began working on the control panel. The encryption is unbreakable, the security chief insisted. It would take hours to solve even with powerful computers. The weapon storage door opened. Humans are living computers, Dr. Quinara said quietly. The escape continued for 2 hours. The humans moved through Tartarus 7 like they owned the place. They freed no other prisoners, hurt no one unnecessarily, and destroyed nothing without purpose. Everything they did served their escape goals. They show mercy, Zixana observed. Guards who surrender are not harmed. But look at their faces, Kolthon pointed out. No satisfaction, no anger, no excitement. They treat mercy the same way they treat violence, just another tactical decision. By 11 in the morning, the humans had reached the main spaceship landing area. A transport vessel waited there, but it was heavily protected. 40 prison guards surrounded the ship with powerful weapons. Finally, Thyssek said, they cannot get past that many armed guards. The humans gathered at the entrance to the landing area. For the first time since the escape began, they stopped moving. Colonel Lim Tae-sung stepped forward and activated the public announcement system. Attention prison guards, he said in his flat, emotionless voice. You have 60 seconds to surrender. After that time, we will take the ship by force. The guard commander laughed over his radio. You are outnumbered and have no weapons. Surrender now and you will not be hurt. 50 seconds remaining, the colonel announced calmly. We have military-grade weapons and armor. You have nothing. 40 seconds. Some guards began looking nervous. They had seen the security footage. They knew what humans could accomplish. 30 seconds. Hold your positions, the guard commander ordered. But his voice shook slightly. 20 seconds. More guards shifted uncomfortably. The humans stood at the entrance like statues, showing no fear of the superior firepower facing them. 10 seconds. The guard commander raised his weapon. Open fire on my command. What happened next took less than 30 seconds. The humans moved like a single deadly organism. They used the environment, their perfect teamwork, and their complete tactical knowledge to turn the battle into a one-sided defeat for the guards. But even during the fighting, their expressions never changed. They disabled opponents efficiently and without emotion, then immediately began preparing the ship for departure. As the transport powered up its engines, Colonel Lim Tae-sung looked directly at the security camera. Thank you for the training exercise, he said to Veltar and his team watching from the security office. It was very educational. The ship launched into space, carrying all the human prisoners to freedom. In the wreckage of the security office, Thyssek stared at the empty video screens in complete shock. They planned this from the very beginning, he whispered. Everything they did every day they were here was preparation for this moment. The war room on the giant alien ship was filled with officers from different worlds. Blue-skinned Altarians worked beside 6-armed Centaurs and massive gray-skinned Vegans. All of them were studying the same thing. Recordings from the battle at Kepler Station. Commander Veltar stood in front of the large display screen. His crystal skin caught the light as he watched human soldiers move through the space station corridors. The humans walked forward like they were taking an evening stroll, not fighting for their lives. When alien defenders shot at them, the humans did not duck or run. They simply raised their weapons and fired back with calm precision. "Play the medical bay section again," Veltar told his aide. Lieutenant Zixana touched her control panel with one of her 4 purple arms. She had been watching these videos for weeks, trying to understand what made humans so different from every other species in the galaxy. On the screen, 3 human soldiers entered the medical bay where wounded aliens were being treated. The aliens begged for mercy, crying and pleading. The humans looked at them with empty eyes and began shooting. Not with anger or hatred, not with excitement or fear. They killed the wounded aliens like they were turning off machines. "Look at their faces," Veltar said to the other officers in the room. No emotion at all. Sergeant Kolthon shifted his huge frame near the wall. The Vegan warrior had scars covering his gray skin from dozens of battles. He had seen many different types of soldiers, but never anything like this. "Maybe they used drugs," he suggested. "Something to make them feel nothing." "We tested their blood," Zixana replied. "No chemicals, no drugs. Nothing artificial in their systems." "Then how do they stay so calm?" another officer asked. Veltar switched to a different recording. This one showed human soldiers during the retreat from their base. Alien forces had surrounded them. The humans were outnumbered 10-1, but they did not panic. They formed a defensive circle and began shooting with the same cold precision they showed everywhere else. When human soldiers were hit by enemy fire, they fell down and died quietly. No screaming, no calling for their mothers, no fear of death. The other humans simply stepped over their bodies and kept fighting. "This is not normal behavior," Veltar said. "Every species shows emotion in battle. Fear makes soldiers careful. Anger makes them fight harder. Sadness makes them mourn their friends. But these humans show nothing." Zixana pulled up more data on her screen. "I studied their heart rates during combat. Most species have racing hearts when they fight. Humans maintain steady, slow heartbeats. Even when they are dying, their pulse stays calm." The room fell silent as everyone thought about this information. Fighting was supposed to be emotional. Soldiers were supposed to feel something when they killed or when they saw their friends die. But humans seemed to experience combat like they were doing paperwork. "What does Command want us to do about this?" Kolthon asked. "Find out how they do it," Veltar answered. "If humans can create soldiers who feel no emotion, other species might learn the same technique. That could change warfare forever." Or, another officer suggested, "We could find a way to make humans feel emotion again. That might make them easier to defeat." Veltar nodded. "Either way, we need to study them." Fortunately, we captured some human prisoners during the battle. The first prisoner was brought into the interrogation room an hour later. The human was a young male named Li Dongwu. He had black hair and brown eyes, and he wore the remains of a human military uniform. 2 alien guards pushed him into a chair, but he sat down without resistance. Li Dongwu looked straight ahead at the wall behind Veltar. His face showed no expression. His hands rested calmly on his knees. He breathed slowly and steadily like he was meditating. "State your name and rank," Veltar commanded. "Corporal Li Dongwu, Human Defense Force, Service Number 4726 Alpha." His voice was flat and emotionless, like he was reading from a book. No fear of his captors, no anger at being captured, no concern about what might happen to him. "How many soldiers were in your unit?" Veltar asked. Li Dongwu continued staring at the wall. He said nothing. "Answer the question," Kolthon growled, moving closer to the prisoner. The huge alien warrior loomed over the small human, but Li Dongwu did not even look at him. His breathing did not change. His heartbeat stayed the same. Zixana watched her medical instruments carefully. "No stress response at all," she whispered to Veltar. "His body shows no signs of fear or nervousness." They tried different approaches. Veltar spoke gently, promising good treatment if the human cooperated. Kolthon shouted and made threats. Other officers offered food, medical care, even the chance to send messages to his family. Li Dongwu responded to every question and offer with the same 3 pieces of information: his name, rank, and service number. Nothing else. His expression never changed, his voice stayed flat, and his body remained relaxed. "This is impossible," one of the interrogators said after 2 hours. "Every prisoner breaks eventually. Fear, pain, loneliness, something always works, and not with humans," Zixana observed. "He acts like he cannot feel anything we do to him." They brought in a second prisoner, a young human female named Kim Hyerin. She walked into the room with the same calm expression as Li Dongwu. Same steady breathing, same relaxed posture, same empty eyes. Private Kim Hyrin, Human Defense Force, service number 9832 Beta. She gave her information before anyone asked. Just like the male prisoner, she would only repeat her name, rank, and service number, no matter what they said to her, no matter how they threatened or pleaded. She sat like a statue. Try showing them images of their home planet, Veltar suggested. The wall screen displayed pictures of Earth. Beautiful cities, green forests, blue oceans. Most prisoners would show some reaction to seeing their homeworld, either happiness or sadness. Both human prisoners looked at the images with the same empty stare they gave everything else. They studied the pictures like they were looking at technical diagrams, not places where they had lived and loved. Show them images of other humans, Zixana suggested. The screen changed to show pictures of human families, children playing, couples holding hands. Still no reaction from the prisoners. They watched their own species like they were observing alien animals in a zoo. This is not natural, Dr. Quinara said when she arrived to examine the prisoners. The telepathic alien was famous for her ability to read minds. Let me try to see what they are thinking. She placed her hands near Li Dongwu's head and concentrated. Her face immediately showed strain and confusion. What do you sense? Veltar asked. Nothing, she replied, pulling her hands away. Not emptiness, but something else. It is like trying to read the mind of a computer. Thoughts are there, but they are cold and organized. No emotions, no memories of home or family. Just tactical information and military procedures. She tried again with Kim Hyrin with the same result. Both humans have the same type of mind. Structured, logical, efficient. But no warmth, no feeling, no humanity. Are they still sane? Veltar asked. That is what worries me, Dr. Quinara replied. They are completely sane. Their minds work perfectly, but they think like machines instead of living beings. Later that evening, Veltar met with his senior officers to discuss what they had learned. These humans are different from any soldiers we have ever encountered, he said. They show no fear, no anger, no sadness. They follow orders perfectly and never break under pressure. How do they create soldiers like this? Kolthon wondered. Surgery, training? Are they born this way? We need to find out, Veltar replied. If humanity can turn normal people into emotionless killing machines, they could conquer the entire galaxy. Sir, a communication officer interrupted. I have received new orders from command. All human prisoners are being transferred to maximum security. Where? Tartarus 7, the prison moon. Everyone in the room knew about Tartarus 7. It was the most secure prison in the galaxy, built to hold the most dangerous criminals. The prison was designed to break the spirit of any prisoner through isolation and psychological pressure. Why send humans there? Zixana asked. Because they have been escaping from normal prisons, the communication officer explained. 3 escape attempts in the past month. Each time the humans work together without speaking. They coordinate perfectly like they share one mind. Veltar thought about this information. Humans who could escape from military prisons, who worked together without communication, who showed no emotion under any circumstances. Prepare my ship, he ordered. We are going to Tartarus 7. I want to see what happens when you try to break the spirit of creatures who might not have spirits to break. As they prepared to leave, Veltar watched the recordings from Kepler Station one more time. Human soldiers moved through the battle like ghosts, killing without anger and dying without fear. What kind of species could create such perfect soldiers? And what did it mean for the rest of the galaxy if humanity decided to expand beyond their current borders? The questions troubled him as his ship left the station and headed for the prison moon. Something told him that understanding humans would be more dangerous than anyone realized. Veltar's ship chased the escaped human transport through space. The alien commander felt both anger and curiosity driving him forward. He had to catch the prisoners, but he also needed to understand what made humans so frighteningly effective. They are heading for the neutral zone, Zixana reported from her control station. Can we catch them? Veltar asked. Negative. Their ship is much faster than we expected. They must have improved the engines during the escape. Kolthon made an angry sound. How did they know how to modify our technology? Because they studied everything, Professor Nalseth said quietly. While we thought they were broken prisoners, they were learning. About our ships, our weapons, our minds. Dr. Quinara looked up from her medical equipment. I am detecting strange energy patterns ahead. Multiple ships approaching. On the main screen, dozens of human vessels appeared from what looked like empty space. They had been hiding, waiting for their rescued friends. "Human fleet," the communications officer announced. "They are requesting permission to board our ship." "Absolutely not," Veltar said immediately. "Sir," the officer continued, "they are not really requesting. They are demanding, and they are pointing weapons at our ship." Before Veltar could respond, the ship shook as invisible beams locked onto it. The human fleet was pulling them toward the largest vessel, a massive warship that made even their command ship look small. "All weapon systems are disabled," Kolthan reported. "They took control of our ship without firing a single shot." Within minutes, Veltar and his team found themselves walking through the corridors of the human warship. The human soldiers around them moved with the same empty expressions and mechanical precision they had seen in the prisoners. But something was different. These humans wore different uniforms and carried themselves with obvious authority. Yet they maintained the same disturbing calm that characterized all human military personnel. "Welcome aboard," a human voice said behind them. They turned to see a tall human male approaching. He wore the markings of high rank and moved like a commander. His face showed the same emotionless expression, but something in his eyes suggested intelligence and awareness. "I am Admiral Baek Sung-ho," the human said. "Thank you for taking such excellent care of our people." "We did not take care of them," Veltar replied. "They were prisoners." "Yes," Admiral Baek agreed. "And you taught them valuable lessons about your security systems, your psychology, and your military capabilities." "Very educational." The alien team was led to a meeting room where more human officers waited. At the head of the table sat an older human woman with gray hair and intelligent eyes. "General Song Ja-hyun," she introduced herself. "Strategic Operations Command." Next to her was a younger human woman in medical clothing. "Dr. An Bora, Military Psychology Division." Admiral Baek gestured for the aliens to sit. "I imagine you have many questions about what you witnessed." "Your soldiers are not natural," Professor Nalseth said immediately. "No species can control emotion so completely," Dr. An Bora smiled. "It was the first human expression of emotion any of them had seen." "You are correct. What you observed is not natural. It is learned." "Learned how?" Dr. Quinara asked. "Through training that has been developed over thousands of years," General Song explained. "Humans have been fighting each other since our species began. We learned to survive by becoming perfect soldiers." Admiral Baek activated a light display showing human history. Images of battles, wars, conflicts spanning many centuries. "Every human civilization has faced constant warfare," he said. "Those who could not adapt died. Those who survived learned to turn every aspect of human nature into weapons." The display showed human soldiers throughout history. Ancient warriors, modern armies, space marines, all fighting with the same disciplined efficiency. "The state you observed is called combat clarity," Dr. An Bora explained. "It is a learned mental condition where emotions are channeled into tactical thinking rather than emotional response." "That is impossible," Professor Nalseth insisted. "Emotions cannot be controlled so precisely." "Watch," General Song said. She turned to Admiral Baek and spoke in a warm, friendly voice. "How is your family, Admiral? I heard your daughter recently finished her studies." Admiral Baek's expression changed completely. His face became warm and proud, showing obvious love and joy. "She did wonderfully. Best student in her engineering class. I am very proud of her success. And your wife's health?" "Much better, thank you for asking. The medical treatment worked perfectly." For several minutes, Admiral Baek talked like any proud father and loving husband. His emotions were clearly visible, his voice warm with affection. Then General Song said quietly, "Combat clarity." Instantly, Admiral Baek's expression went blank. The warmth disappeared from his eyes. His voice became flat and mechanical. "Transition complete," he reported. "All emotional responses channeled to tactical processing. Ready for combat operations." The alien team stared in shock. The change had taken less than 2 seconds. "How?" Zixana whispered. "Training," Dr. An Bora explained. "Every human child learns basic emotional control. Those who join the military learn advanced techniques. Elite soldiers like our former prisoners master combat clarity completely." "But why?" Veltar asked. "Why make yourselves into machines?" "Because we love," General Song said simply. She activated another light display. This one showed human families, children, peaceful cities, art and music and culture. Everything we care about must be protected, the general continued. When humans love something, we become absolutely dedicated to defending it. Combat clarity allows us to love completely and fight perfectly. Admiral Back nodded. When I think about my family in combat clarity, I do not feel sad or worried. Instead, I calculate exactly what I must do to keep them safe. Every enemy I face, every tactical decision I make, is driven by love converted into military precision. Dr. An Bo-Ra showed them brain pictures of human soldiers. Love, fear, anger, grief, all human emotions become fuel for tactical thinking. The stronger the emotion, the better the soldier. That is why your prisoners seemed emotionless, General Song explained. They were not emotionless. They were processing their feelings as military data. Their love for each other, their loyalty to humanity, their desire to return home, all of it was converted into escape planning. Professor Nalseth looked disturbed. You turned love into a weapon. No, Admiral Baek corrected, his expression briefly becoming human again. We turn love into strength. There is a difference. Show them, General Song ordered. Dr. An Bo-Ra activated a communication system. Bring in Demonstration Team Alpha. The door opened and 5 human soldiers entered. Veltar recognized them immediately. They were the escaped prisoners from Tartarus 7, Colonel Lim Tae-sung, Sergeant Choi Young-ho, Private Kim So-young, Specialist Yoon Hee-won, and Corporal Lee Dong-woo stood at attention with their familiar blank expressions. Transition to standard mode, General Song commanded. The change was immediate and startling. All 5 soldiers' expressions changed to show normal human emotion. They smiled, relaxed their postures, and looked around with obvious curiosity and warmth. Sir, Colonel Lim said to Admiral Baek, thank you for the rescue operation. It is good to be back with the fleet. How was your experience in the alien prison? Dr. An Bo-Ra asked. Educational, Private Kim So-young replied with a genuine smile. We learned much about alien psychology and technology. The information will be valuable for future operations. Were you treated well? The doctor continued. They tried to break us mentally, Sergeant Choi Young-ho said with amusement in his voice. It was interesting to see their methods. Not very effective against combat clarity training. Specialist Yoon Hee-won nodded. Their questioning techniques work on species that process emotion normally. But when emotions become tactical data, mental pressure becomes useful intelligence. The aliens watched in fascination as the human prisoners displayed normal emotions. Humor, curiosity, warmth, even affection for each other. Combat clarity, General Song said again. Instantly, all 5 humans returned to their empty expressions and mechanical behavior. Standard mode. Warm. Human emotions returned immediately. This is how all human military personnel operate, Admiral Baek explained. We can switch between normal emotional processing and combat clarity as needed. But this makes you incredibly dangerous, Veltar pointed out. Yes, General Song agreed without hesitation. When humans care about something, we become the most efficient fighters in the universe to protect it. That is why other species fear us, Admiral Baek added. Not because we are cruel or emotionless, but because we can love perfectly and fight perfectly at the same time. Dr. An Bo-Ra showed them final brain pictures. A human mother thinking about her children in standard mode shows normal emotional patterns. The same mother thinking about threats to her children in combat clarity shows the brain patterns of a strategic computer. Both responses are driven by identical love but expressed differently. So the stories are true, Zixana said quietly. Humans are the cold-blooded killers of the universe. No, Colonel Lim corrected, speaking in standard mode with obvious passion. We are the most warm-blooded species in existence. We feel everything more intensely than you can imagine. But we learn to use those feelings as weapons instead of weaknesses. The false alarm had everyone worried. Warden Thysic called for a full security review of the human section. Veltar decided they needed to understand human behavior better before another incident occurred. I want to run controlled experiments, he told the prison staff. We need to see how humans react under different types of pressure. Professor Nalseth arrived the next day from the Galactic University. He was famous for studying the minds of different species. His gray skin had patterns that changed color when he was thinking hard. I have read your reports about these humans, Professor Nalseth said as he examined the prisoner files. Every intelligent species has emotional reactions. It is basic psychology. These humans must have some kind of breaking point. Dr. Quinora looked doubtful. I have been trying to find their breaking point for weeks. Nothing works. Then we are not trying the right things, the professor replied. Fear, anger, sadness, loneliness. Something will make them react normally. They set up a special testing room inside the prison. The room had equipment for showing images, playing sounds, and monitoring the prisoners' bodies during experiments. The first test subject was Sergeant Choi Young-ho, a human soldier captured during the space station battle. He walked into the testing room with the same calm expression all humans seem to wear. Begin with standard fear responses. Professor Nalseth told his assistants. They showed Choi Young-ho pictures designed to frighten most species. Giant monsters, dangerous storms, scenes of death and destruction. The human watched each image with steady attention, like he was reading technical manuals. Heart rate normal, reported the medical technician. No stress chemicals detected in his blood. They made the images more intense. Scenes of torture, pain, and suffering. Sounds that made most aliens feel panic and terror. Choi Young-ho continued watching with the same steady breathing and blank expression. Try personal threats, Professor Nalseth suggested. The room's computer created a fake image of a human city being destroyed. Buildings fell down while people ran screaming through the streets. A computer voice announced that this was Earth being attacked. For the first time, Choi Young-ho reacted, but not with fear or sadness. He leaned forward and began studying the attack pattern shown in the fake image. Interesting, he said in his flat voice. The enemy forces are using poor strategy. Bad coordination between air and ground attacks. Simple to defeat with proper defensive planning. Zixana looked at her instruments in surprise. He is analyzing the fake attack instead of being upset by it. Show him civilians being hurt, Professor Nalseth ordered. The fake images displayed scenes of human families in danger. Children crying, people suffering, homes being destroyed. Most species would feel distress seeing their own kind threatened. Choi Young-ho watched carefully, then spoke again. Civilian evacuation plans are inadequate. Need better escape routes and underground shelters. Also require anti-aircraft weapons in residential areas. He was treating the terrible images like military training exercises. This is not normal, Professor Nalseth muttered. Every species shows emotional response to threats against their own kind. Sergeant, Dr. Quinara said to the prisoner, how would you feel if your family was in danger? Mission objectives would change, Choi Young-ho replied. Primary goal would become family protection. Would need new tactical planning to achieve objective. But how would you feel about it? She asked again. Choi Young-ho looked confused by the question. Feelings do not affect mission success. They brought in other human prisoners and tried the same tests. Private Kim So-young, Specialist Yoon Hai-won, Corporal Lee Dong-woo. Every human showed identical patterns. No emotional response to fear, pain, or threats. Instead, they analyzed every situation like military problems that needed solutions. This should not be possible, Professor Nalseth said after hours of testing. Every intelligent being has emotional reactions. It is how minds work. Dr. Quinara had been studying brain scans during the experiments. I think they do have emotions, she said quietly. But they process them differently than any species I have studied. What do you mean? Feltar asked. Look at their brain activity during the tests. When we showed Choi Young-ho images of humans being hurt, his emotional centers activated strongly. But instead of creating fear or sadness, the emotional response was immediately converted into tactical thinking. She showed them the brain patterns on her computer. See here? When he saw the burning city, his emotional centers lit up like fire. But instead of causing distress, the emotional energy became strategic analysis. So they do feel, Zixana said. But they use feelings as fuel for military thinking? That appears correct. Their emotions make them better soldiers instead of making them weak. Feltar found this idea very disturbing. Most species became less effective when emotional. Fear made them panic, anger made them careless, sadness made them slow. But humans seemed to become more dangerous when they had strong feelings. Let us try something different, he suggested. Test their loyalty to each other. They brought Private Kim So-young into a separate room where Choi Young-ho could see her through a window. Then they pretended to threaten her with harm. Tell us your military codes or the female will be hurt, Professor Nalseth said to Choi Young-ho. The human sergeant looked at Kim So-young through the window. For a moment his expression seemed to change slightly. Then it returned to the same blank stare. Private Kim So-young, Human Defense Force. Service number 8821 Delta, he said. That is her information. Not yours, Professor Nalseth pointed out. Correct. Will you give us your codes to save her? Negative. They pretended to prepare devices for torturing the female prisoner. Kim So-young sat in her chair with the same empty expression, showing no fear of the fake threats. She will suffer if you do not help us, Professor Nalseth warned. Private Kim So-young understands her duty, Choi Young-ho replied. She would not want me to compromise mission security. Through the window, Kim So-young nodded once. No fear, no begging, no emotion. She was prepared to endure torture rather than have her fellow soldier break under pressure. This is not natural, Colthan muttered. Even the strongest warriors care about their friends. They do care, Dr. Quinara said, studying her instruments. Look at Choi Young-ho's body signs when we threatened Kim So-young. His heart rate increased slightly, but instead of begging us to stop, he became more determined to resist. Veltar realized something important. Their caring makes them stronger, not weaker. They protect each other by being better soldiers, not by showing emotion. The final test was the most disturbing. They brought in Specialist Yoon Hee-won, a human communications officer. She had been badly hurt during her capture and walked with great difficulty. We can heal your injuries, Professor Nalseth offered. Give us information about human military communications, and we will provide medical treatment. Yoon Hee-won looked at him with those same empty eyes. Specialist Yoon Hee-won, Human Defense Force, Service Number 2156 Gamma. You are in pain. We can make it stop. Pain does not affect duty performance. You could be disabled for life without treatment. Physical condition is not relevant to mission objectives. They offered her freedom, medical care, even the chance to send messages to her family. She responded to every offer with only her name, rank, and service number. But the most frightening moment came when they asked her a simple question. Do you want to go home? For just 1 second, Yoon Hye-won's expression changed. Something human appeared in her face. Then it disappeared. Home is where duty requires, she said. After the test, the research team met to discuss what they had learned. Everyone was disturbed by what they had seen. These are not normal soldiers, Professor Nalseth said. Normal soldiers break under enough pressure. These humans seem to get stronger when stressed. But they are still human, Dr. Quinara added. Their brains show human patterns, human biology, human genetics. Yet they think like no human should be able to think. How do they do it? Zixana asked. How does an entire species learn to control emotion so completely? Maybe they are not controlling emotion, Veltar said thoughtfully. Maybe they are weaponizing it. That night, security cameras recorded something strange. The human prisoners in their separate cells began moving at exactly the same time. They stood up, walked to their doors, and placed their hands on the metal. For exactly 60 seconds, they stood there without moving. Then they returned to their beds and lay down. When guards checked the doors the next morning, they found that the metal had been slightly warmed by human touch. But there were no messages, no codes, no communication that anyone could detect. They are planning something, Tisek said nervously, but we do not know what. Whatever it is, Veltar replied, we need to find out before they are ready to act. The mystery of the humans was getting deeper and more frightening. They were clearly more than simple prisoners. But what were they really planning? And how could beings who seemed so emotionless coordinate so perfectly? The answers would come sooner than anyone expected.